Have you ever filled up your gas tank, cringed at the price, and wondered why? The answer isn't always local. Sometimes it's thousands of miles away. We often hear about conflicts elsewhere, perhaps catching a headline and think, that's terrible, but it doesn't affect me. But what if I told you that the geopolitical tremors in the Middle East have a direct, tangible impact on your everyday life, from the cost of your commute to the price of your groceries? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and unravel the complex web connecting Middle Eastern conflicts to the rising fuel prices you see at the pump, and the surprising way these distant events inflate the cost of nearly everything else you buy. We're going to explore how instability in one crucial region can send economic shockwaves across the entire planet, and why your budget feels tighter because of it. To understand how these conflicts hit your pocketbook, we first need to grasp just how vital the Middle East is to the global economy. Imagine the world's energy supply as a giant machine, and the Middle East is its most critical engine room. This region isn't just a player in the global energy market, it is the main player. It holds a staggering portion of the world's proven oil and natural gas reserves. We're talking about countries like Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and the UAE sitting on massive underground reservoirs that fuel our cars, heat our homes, and power our industries. When things are calm, this engine room hums along, reliably pumping out the energy the world needs. But when conflict ignites, even a spark can cause an earthquake in the global energy markets. Think of it like this. If you rely on a single, massive well for most of your water, and that well becomes unstable, wouldn't you start worrying about whether you'll get water tomorrow? The mere threat of conflict escalating, whether it's a skirmish, an outright war, or heightened tensions, immediately raises concerns about the stability of that supply. This isn't just about actual damage to oil fields or pipelines, though that can certainly happen. More often, it's about what traders and investors anticipate. They see the news, they read the reports, and they start to think, what if the oil supply gets cut off? What if it's harder to get out of the region? This uncertainty creates a kind of panic buying in the market. Everyone wants to secure their supply before it potentially disappears, or before it becomes even more expensive. This increased demand, driven by fear and speculation, immediately pushes prices higher, sometimes significantly, even if not a single drop of oil has actually stopped flowing. It's a classic case of supply and demand, where the perception of reduced supply, even if temporary, sends prices soaring. So that extra dollar you're paying per gallon at the pump isn't just a random hike. It's often a direct reflection of the global market reacting to the uncertainty bubbling up in the Middle East. Now let's talk about getting that oil from the engine room to the rest of the world. It's not just about producing the oil, it's also about moving it. The Middle East isn't just a primary energy producer, it's also a critical energy transportation hub, home to some of the most vital oil shipping lanes and choke points on the planet. Imagine the global economy as a massive body, and these shipping lanes are its arteries. The Strait of Hormuz, for example, is perhaps the most famous and critical of these choke points. It's a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman, and about 1/5 of the world's total petroleum consumption, and 1/3 of the world's liquefied natural gas passes through it every single day. That's an astonishing amount of energy squeezed through a relatively small maritime corridor. Other crucial passages include the Suez Canal and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. When there's peace, ships sail through these waters unimpeded, carrying their precious cargo in an efficient system perfected by time and experience. But when conflict flares up, when there are military actions, threats of blockade, drone strikes, or even just heightened tensions in these areas, it's like putting a kink in those arteries. The immediate concern is obvious. What if a ship is attacked? What if the strait is temporarily closed? Such disruptions could lead to massive supply chain bottlenecks, delaying deliveries of oil and gas by days or even weeks. This isn't just theoretical. We've seen actual incidents where tankers were targeted or where naval presence increased dramatically. When this happens, oil prices jump because the risk of getting that oil to market has suddenly skyrocketed. But it's not just the direct risk. The cost of shipping itself goes up. Insurance premiums for vessels traversing these conflict zones become astronomically expensive. Imagine you're a shipping company. and suddenly your insurance bill for sending a tanker through a certain strait goes from a reasonable sum to hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. Who pays for that? Ultimately, it's passed down the line, adding to the overall cost of fuel and related products, and eventually landing squarely on us, the consumers. So, a minor skirmish in a faraway strait can literally add cents or even dollars to your next tank of gas, because the path to get that fuel to you just became much riskier and pricier. The impact of rising oil prices doesn't stop at the gas pump. It triggers a massive domino effect that ripples through the entire global economy, contributing to what economists call inflationary pressures. Think about it. Almost everything you buy, touch, or consume, from your morning coffee to your smartphone, has traveled at some point. It was either transported by a truck, a ship, a train, or a plane. And what powers all of those vehicles? Fuel. So when the cost of fuel goes up because of Middle East instability, the cost of transportation for all goods goes up. This isn't just for goods coming from overseas, it's also for things moving within your own country. The farmer who grows your food pays more to transport his produce to the market. The factory that makes your electronics pays more to ship components to their assembly lines and finished products to stores. The clothing brands pay more to get their textiles from abroad. Even the local delivery service bringing your takeout food is paying more for gas. This means that nearly every industry is affected. Manufacturing sectors face higher costs for moving raw materials and finished products. The agricultural sector, crucial for feeding the world, sees increased expenses for everything from running farm machinery to shipping crops. These increased operational costs don't just disappear. Businesses, to stay profitable, have to pass them on to consumers. And that's exactly what they do, in the form of higher prices for their final products. Suddenly, that carton of milk, that loaf of bread, that new gadget, they all cost a little bit more. This isn't because the product itself changed, but because the energy required to bring it to you became more expensive. These ripple effects contribute to a broader inflationary environment, meaning your money doesn't stretch as far as it used to. Your purchasing power decreases. So, a conflict you read about on the other side of the world isn't just about fuel. It's about the erosion of your purchasing power across your entire shopping basket. It's a stark reminder of how interconnected our global economy truly is. Beyond direct conflict and transportation risks, there's another powerful tool often deployed in geopolitical struggles: sanctions. When conflicts arise or when nations disagree strongly on international policy, sanctions are frequently imposed by some countries against others. These aren't just polite disagreements, they're acts of economic warfare, and they can have profound global implications, further complicating the price situation. Sanctions can take many forms: restricting trade in specific goods, freezing assets, banning financial transactions, or limiting access to international banking systems. Their goal is often to exert pressure on a targeted country to change its behavior. However, their effects rarely stay contained. Let's say a major oil-producing nation in the Middle East is hit with sanctions that limit its ability to sell oil on the international market or to receive payment for it. Even if that country has the oil, sanctions effectively remove a portion of the global supply. This creates artificial shortages, driving up prices for everyone else. It's like having plenty of apples in an orchard, but a fence is built around a section, so fewer apples make it to the market, and the price of the remaining apples goes up. Furthermore, sanctions disrupt established global trade flows. Companies that used to rely on certain suppliers or routes suddenly have to find new, often more expensive alternatives. This inefficiency adds costs throughout the supply chain. Sanctions can also impact currency exchange rates, making some currencies more volatile and creating uncertainty in international business. For instance, if a country can't easily sell its resources, its currency might weaken, making imports more expensive for its citizens, and potentially driving up inflation within its borders, which can have spillover effects. These economic pressures contribute to overall global economic instability. They don't just affect the targeted nation, they create a more complicated, riskier, and ultimately more expensive environment for everyone participating in global trade. So, while intended to pressure specific regimes, sanctions often exacerbate existing inflationary pressures, making the price of everything, from electronics to energy, climb even higher for consumers around the world. It's a game theory outcome where everyone, even those uninvolved in the conflict, pays a price. So we've journeyed from the oil fields of the Middle East to your local gas station, and then to your grocery cart. What have we learned? The influence of Middle East conflicts on global fuel prices is not a simple, one-dimensional issue. It's a complex tapestry woven from several interconnected threads. It stems first and foremost from the region's unparalleled role as a primary energy producer, making any instability a direct threat to the world's fuel supply. Then, it's amplified by the region's strategic location, home to critical transportation choke points that are lifelines for global energy movement. Any disruption there sends shipping costs soaring. On top of that, the ripple effects extend far beyond fuel, increasing transportation costs for every conceivable good, from food to electronics, pushing up prices across the board and contributing to broader inflation. Finally, the added layer of sanctions and counter-sanctions further complicates global trade, creating artificial shortages and driving up costs. What this all boils down to is a powerful demonstration of how deeply interconnected our global economy truly is. A conflict thousands of miles away, seemingly distant and unrelated to your daily life, can very quickly translate into real economic consequences in your household budget. It highlights that in our modern world, what happens in one corner of the globe rarely stays there. The stability of the Middle East isn't just a regional issue, it's a global economic imperative, one that shapes the prices you pay every single day. Understanding these connections helps us make sense of the world around us and the forces that quietly impact our lives. So let's continue to ask, why? On YouTube,